Hi, my name is Tina from Tina's Mini Dolls, Episode 1. Today, we will dye fabric with tea or coffee. The reason I want to show this, it's because at least once a week, I get an email from a customer asking me how can they dye their fabrics, and it's really not that hard. Tea dyeing is very easy to do. It's an easy way to give fabric an old antique look or a dirty look, especially if you're working on a doll that requires her to have like grungy looking clothes. It only works on natural fibers such as silks, cottons, wools. I even dye silk velvet because I have white silk velvet, and I've dyed it before and it comes out great. The teas I like to use my preference is Earl Grey tea. And then for coffee, I use the Folgers coffee. It's up to you what coffee you want to use, but the Earl Grey I think is the best one for tea dyeing. Be aware though, espresso coffee is darker than regular coffee, so be aware of that. Never dye when the coffee and the tea is hot. Wait until it cools off or it will shrink your fabric, and we don't want that to happen, especially with the chiffon. Cold water dyes best. Okay, I personally prefer to dye with coffee, but I'm going to teach you today. We're going to do both coffee and tea, but I prefer the coffee because it gives the fabric a brown old look, whereas I find tea gives it like a brownish, grayish look. So that's just my preference. You play around with it, see what you like. When I boil the water, I add a little bit of salt, maybe a pinch or two of salt, because it helps set the dye. And that's basically it. I will now go and show you how to dye your fabrics. Okay, so let's start the process. I have here 3 bowls. I have a bowl with water. I have another bowl with coffee and one with tea. The tea, I have about 2 cups of tea and 2 cups of water and about 3 bags of tea. If you want it darker, go ahead and add more tea. The coffee, I make dark coffee. I just use my coffee machine. And the water is to rinse the fabric and wet it before I actually dip it in the coffee. It's very important that we do wet our fabric. You can do this in the sink, but for the sake of the video, I will go ahead and do it in the bowl. Okay, you can, as I previously said, you can pretty much tea dye any type of fabric as long as it's a natural fiber fabric. And here I have silk gauze, I have silk chiffon, and here I have silk taffeta, and it's very bright. It's a bright gold, and I'm going to tea dye it so I can tone down this gold color. I also have another fabric here that I will be using in the future for another project, which is a small print cotton fabric, and I'm going to teach you how to do a vintage doll trunk. So in order to use this fabric, I will put it in the coffee just to give it a vintage look. And I just want to show you a real quick sample here. I made this bodice. Before I actually made the bodice, I tea dyed the fabric because I did not like the color. And this fabric here was the crinkled silk chiffon. So let's begin. First thing you need to do is put your fabrics in the water. Make sure it's nice and wet so that the dye can set. And then go ahead and and I have to, first it's important to remove the tea. So remove the tea bags, and then we can start. So I'll just put a few of the fabrics, some in tea, some in the coffee. And this is silk velvet. I love silk velvet. It's perfect for dyeing. I'm going to put it in the tea. I'm going to make a doll with a coat, and I want her collar to have the fur. And here's that golden bright silk taffeta that I told you about. It was way too bright. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the coffee. And the silk gauze, I love silk gauze. It's perfect for veils. So, and basically, just stir it a bit. We'll let it sit here for about 5 minutes, and then we'll be back. Okay, it's been about 30 minutes, and I rinsed the fabric. I left it outside so it can dry, and here I'm going to show you the difference. Here's the net. This is the cotton fabric, and this is the original color, and here we have the one that I dipped in tea. And you see how it toned down the color and it gave it more of a vintage look. Here I have silk taffeta. This is the original. It's very, very shiny, too shiny. It's a beautiful fabric, but it's way too shiny for my project. So I went ahead and dipped it in tea, and there, see how it's now, it's not as shiny. Let's see if I could put it this way, maybe you can see it. It's kind of hard to see in the video camera, but I like the way it looks now. And this is my favorite. This was really unexpected. I had never done this particular color before. This is like a lemon yellow. This is the original. And after dipping it in coffee, it completely changed the color to a different tone. So I was happy with that. And if you notice, look how nice silk chiffon. Silk chiffon is just one of those, the crinkled silk chiffon. It's one of those fabrics that if you don't have enough crinkles, just go ahead and feel free to wet it, dip it in water, and let it dry, and the crinkle returns. See? Okay, now this is the other one. This is the one I'm going to use for another episode. I'm going to teach you how to make a trunk, an antique trunk. And the fabric that I want to use, this one here, it's way too bright for my project, and I wanted to tone down the color, give it an antique look, and see how nice it came out. It's perfect. And then I have here more silk chiffon. Here's the original, the pink, and this was dipped in coffee. This is really nice, and this is one of my favorites. I have silk velvet, and this was a natural white, and after I dipped it in coffee, see, now we have a different color. You know, a lot of times we buy the pieces of silk 9 by 22, and we still have leftovers. You can dye it. The nice thing about this, if I want to, I'm going to use this particular piece for a collar, for a coat, for one of my dolls. So there, and I didn't want it to be this bright color. If I left it in the coffee a bit longer or used espresso coffee, it would have come out even darker. Okay, and we have silk taffeta. You see how nice? It gives it that vintage look, old look. And over here was bright white. And that's nice. And Swiss Batiste, I use it all the time. I do this to my Swiss Batiste. Sometimes I have white, but I want a beige color. And this is great if you're going to make a little doll where the clothes are grungy and dirty. This is perfect. And another of my favorite is the silk. Here's the original. Then this is the tea dye one. And here we have the coffee. So you see you have here now 3 colors. Okay? Not only can you tea dye fabric, but you can also dye lace. So I have this lace here. It's white. And if I wanted to have, if I want to give it a vintage look, then I go ahead and dip it in tea or coffee, and it comes out really nice. I do this all the time to my lace. And you know, vintage lace is so expensive. But if I take this lace, I give it that vintage look by dyeing it. And here's a doll that I did. Let's see. This is a doll that I did, and I went ahead, I don't know if you could see it. I lost my assistant, so I'm on my own right now, but it's hard to see. I guess the lighting is not that great. But anyway, this doll here, the lace, I tea dyed her lace. All the lace actually, all the lace that she has, I tea dyed. And then there was a little tiny lace that I put on her veil. And I also tea dyed it so that it could match with the veil. And that's it. I hope that I've been able to help you. and that you will use this technique, feel free to email me. And if you're interested in any of these fabrics, just feel free to go to www.tinasminidolls.com.